GoForThe2.com in with the Week 9 selections. Before I get into the selections and the rapid-fire picks, a total of 4 in this video. Also put out the Kansas State, West Virginia video, so check that out. All 5 selections will be up on the website, GoForThe2.com, so check that out as well. Prior to the rapid-fire selections in this video, this coming Saturday, October 31st, college football today, 2 hours, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., sportsgrid.com, check it out. And then once the games start, in-game live, 12 to 5 p.m., I talk about all the in-game wagering perspective, talk about the 12 o'clock matchups, take you through the 3:30 kicks. We also have some great 4 o'clock action this coming Saturday, some marquee battles. We have Memphis and Cincinnati that I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes in terms of who I like. We also have Auburn, LSU at 3:30, have Virginia Tech, Louisville, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, K-State, West Virginia, some great matchups prior to 5 o'clock. So stay with me for 5 straight hours, 12 to 5 p.m. sportsgrid.com. We'll talk about the in-game wagering perspective, and then your pregame, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, sportsgrid.com or MSG Plus. Talk about all the top 25 battles, talk about some under-the-radar games, give you the best bets that are on this video, along with some other games as the week progresses. I talk about first half games, talk about totals, we talk about player props. We talk about it all for 2 straight hours this coming Saturday. So tune in, MSG Plus or MSG Networks, this coming Saturday, October 31st. Gave you the selection for K-State and West Virginia. Check it out on YouTube. It's on a separate video. Let's talk about this matchup in the AAC between Cincinnati and Memphis. What can you say about the Bearcats? They stepped up. Dominant road effort over SMU, rushed for 313 yards in that battle, kept the football, and more importantly, kept Shane Buechele and that explosive SMU offense on the sidelines. This game was won in the trenches. Physicality for Cincinnati on both sides of the ball. They were able to wear down a smaller defensive front in SMU, sustain drives, and that opened up big plays in terms of the run game. Desmond Ridder broke a 91-yard run. He made solid decisions, didn't turn the football over, did not give that SMU offense a short field to work with, and that's why they ran away with that victory on the road as a 2.5-point underdog. Now they face a team in Memphis that they have lost 5 straight games. Memphis has won 5 straight in the series by an average margin of victory of 15.2 points per game. They faced the Bearcats twice last year, the last time in the AAC championship game. They won that matchup 29-24. The meeting in the regular season, they also won 34-24. This game comes down to which team do you believe can dictate the tempo and really establish their style of play in this matchup. I know everybody's looking at that ball game against SMU and thinking that was the best team in the conference. I don't think so. I think the best team in the conference resides in Tennessee and Memphis. I was very impressed a couple of weeks ago with that victory over UCF. They were a battle-tested team, fell behind by 20 points, and found a way to get that victory. They followed that up last week with a gutty 12-point win over a blue-collar team in Temple. They forced 4 turnovers in that matchup, held the Owls to only 113 rushing yards per game, and I still believe that Brady White is one of the best underrated quarterbacks in college football. He loses DeMonte Coxey, his receiver that opted out after the UCF game, but I don't think it matters in this ball game. It comes down to the front 7 of Memphis that's only given up 129 rushing yards per game. They forced 10 turnovers on the year, play solid third down defense, and I think they can start fast and put the game on Desmond Ridder to match them score for score. I think they're the more explosive offense, and I like their defensive front. They're athletic, they could fill running lanes, and I think they could force Cincinnati's offense into long third down situations. And like I mentioned about Brady White, completing well over 60% of his passes, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He has a solid tight end and a big play tight end in Sean Dykes. They utilize a lot of motion, create mismatches on Cincinnati, on nickelbacks and linebackers, and I think that's what they can do against the Cincinnati defense. Again, I know Cincinnati stepped up last week, but if you just look at their body of work overall, they played Army, they played Austin Peay, not some of the better, more explosive teams on the schedule, but they did get a solid effort on the road against SMU. But I like Memphis to win this ball game outright. Don't think it'll be easy. Think it's a tight game in the first half. But in the second half, Memphis picks up a 7-point win on the road against Cincinnati in this ball game. Turn our attention to an SEC battle between Georgia and Kentucky. What can you say? Kentucky, all eyes were on them after the Tennessee victory. They laid an egg on the road against Missouri, lost that matchup 20-10. Georgia, they lost to Alabama a couple weeks ago, had a bye week. They've won 10 straight in the series, picked up this victory last year against Lyndon Bowden and the crew, 21-0. They've won the last 4 against the Wildcats by 17.5 points per game. Last time Kentucky defeated Georgia was back in 2009. This game comes down to 2 factors. One, Georgia's coming out of a bye week. I know they should be the more complete team and the well-rested team in this matchup, but Georgia does have Florida on deck. In my opinion, this game comes down to, in terms of the game plan for Georgia, I expect them to come out very vanilla type of game plan against Kentucky, and that's where I favor the Kentucky secondary. This Kentucky secondary is very physical at the point of attack. They're opportunistic, 8 interceptions. Prior to last week's game, over the last 2 weeks, they forced 6 turnovers. 3 weeks ago, 2 turnovers in the victory against Tennessee, and they did not allow a passing touchdown in that loss to Missouri. I think that's the matchup going up against Georgia's offense. Georgia wants to still run the football. Kentucky only giving up 129 rushing yards per game. I think Stoops is a solid coach. I think they forced Georgia to work down the field, and that's where I give the edge to the Kentucky defense. They're very solid in terms of third down defense, holding opposing offenses right in the area of about 39% on third down conversions. I think Georgia plays this game very close. They don't want to show too much for the Florida game, which is a rivalry game. I think Georgia wins this ball game by 10 points or less, and that's within the number of about 15.5 in this ball game. Kentucky, I think, gets them into a lower scoring game, runs the football more effectively, stays in manageable third downs. Don't be shocked if Kentucky's in this ball game from start to finish. And if you're looking at last year, keep in mind that Lynn Bowden was the quarterback in that matchup against Kentucky, and they only won that ball game by 21 points. In that matchup against Georgia. I like Kentucky with the points in this ballgame. Another key game takes place between Virginia Tech and Louisville. When you look at Virginia Tech overall, they lost that matchup to Wake Forest, a disappointing loss to the Demon Deacons on the road, but they still were able to rush for over 200 yards in that matchup. This is an offense that's averaging 291 rushing yards per game, 6.1 yards per carry. I like this team on the road going up against Louisville. Now, I know Louisville dominated Florida State. They were a 5-point favorite to start. Line got down to around 3.5, and they just blew the doors off the Seminoles and Mike Norvell, 48-16 in that matchup. They still allowed 265 rushing yards on the ground to the Seminoles, and more importantly, I'm still not sold on the consistency of Malik Cunningham and this team overall in Louisville. They're -8 in turnover margin, and that's a huge concern for me playing a team in Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is very physical at the point of attack. They have cover men that can lock down Tutu Atwell and Des Fitzpatrick, and that front seven of Virginia Tech does have 18 total sacks on the year, and on the flip side, the Louisville offensive line is allowing 16 sacks through week number 9, and that's a concern going up against a very physical team. Even though Louisville's at home, I look for Virginia Tech to run the football. I think they dominate this ball game. I think it's close early, but the speed of Virginia Tech, to me, is the difference. I think they win this game by 13 points or more over Louisville in this ball game. Another ball game takes place in the SEC. It's the marquee one for at least 3:30. It's LSU and Auburn. TJ Finley last week stepped up, completed 81% of his passes, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. LSU dominated South Carolina in this matchup. Last 3 meetings in the series decided by a total of 8 points, or 2.6 points per game. LSU picked up this victory last year on a wet track in Baton Rouge by 3 points, 23-20. Was really 23-13 before Auburn added a late touchdown, but still Auburn went toe-to-toe with the Tigers and Joe Burrow in that matchup. This game is going to come down to the front 7 of LSU. They stepped up last week, dominated for much of the second half, but they still allowed 165 rushing yards to South Carolina. And on the flip side, you look at Auburn, another 200-yard rushing performance, 3 straight weeks now for the Auburn Tigers. They rushed for 224 yards on the ground against Ole Miss. I know it was Ole Miss, but that's still a dominant offensive effort. Tank Bigsby stepped up. Very physical runner between the tackles. This game is going to come down to 2 factors. Can Auburn run the football effectively, and can Bo Nix cut down on mistakes playing at home? I think he can. I like Auburn's defense. I know they haven't stepped up and dominated for the most part, but they are an opportunistic defense, a bend but don't break type of defense going up against TJ Finley and the crew. I think Auburn wins this matchup. I know they're underdogs by 2.5 points. I don't think it matters. I think the speed of Auburn with Seth Williams and those wide receivers on the outside like Eli Stove get it done against the secondary for LSU that's given up over 330 passing yards per game. I don't have confidence in Bo Pelini on the road. Still not sold on the consistency of LSU. Think this is still a major rebuild. Give me Auburn in the mild upset. I think they win this ball game by 4 points over the Tigers. Stay with me this coming Saturday. College football today, 10 to 12, and then in-game live, 12 to 5. See you then.